The dining room was buzzing with chatter, wine glasses clinking, and the smell of roasted turkey filling the air. Everyone was smiling until my mother's voice cut through the noise like a knife. "She doesn't deserve to sit at this table," Margaret Hayes declared, her fork pausing midair. Her eyes locked on me and the entire room went still. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do. In this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I froze, my hand resting lightly on the rim of my water glass. "What did you just say?" I asked, keeping my voice calm even though my chest felt like it was collapsing. "You heard me, Rachel," she replied coolly, like she'd rehearsed the line all day. "You've brought nothing but disappointment. No real career, no husband. Nothing to show for yourself. You think you can sit here like you're an equal? Not in my house." Gasps rippled. Olivia, my older sister, smirked, exchanging a knowing glance with her fiancé, Brandon Cole. He leaned back in his chair, looking amused, like this was some show staged for his entertainment. My father, Thomas, didn't even look up from his plate. The heat burned in my throat, but I refused to let it choke me. I straightened my back, forcing my voice not to crack. "If I don't deserve to sit here," I said slowly, "then I won't." Grandpa Edward shifted in his seat at the far end of the table. His knuckles tightened around his glass. "Margaret," he began, but my mother cut him down with a glare. The silence was suffocating. My chair scraped loudly as I pushed it back. Every eye followed me, some curious, some mocking, none sympathetic. I stood tall, my legs trembling but my face unreadable. "Enjoy your dinner," I whispered, my eyes meeting Olivia's smug grin for just a beat longer. Then I turned and walked away, each step echoing on the hardwood floor like a drum. The laughter returned before I even reached the front door, as if my presence had been nothing but an interruption in their perfect evening. But I didn't care. The cold November air slapped my cheeks when I stepped outside, and I inhaled deeply, as if I'd been freed. What they didn't know was that tomorrow morning, their carefully crafted world, where I was the failure and they were untouchable, would start to crack, and the first blow would come from the one man they still thought they controlled: Grandpa. The morning light spilled through the wide kitchen windows, golden and warm, catching on the polished countertops and the steam rising from a fresh pot of coffee. My new home still felt unreal to me. The marble island, the high ceilings, the quiet peace that wrapped around every corner. For months, I'd built this life in silence, piece by piece, away from their prying eyes. Now, I sat across from Grandpa Edward, watching him butter a piece of toast like it was the most ordinary morning in the world. He looked comfortable, even happy, his shoulders finally relaxed. "This place suits you, Rachel," he said with a small smile. "It's about time you found a home where you can breathe." "Thank you, Grandpa," I whispered, swallowing the lump in my throat. His presence here meant everything. He hadn't spoken up last night, not really. But the fact that he'd chosen to come to my house first thing in the morning said more than words ever could. A knock at the door shattered the calm. Not one knock. A pounding. Hard. Aggressive. Stiffened, coffee cup pausing midway to my lips. Edward raised an eyebrow. "Expecting company?" I shook my head. My pulse raced as I stood, crossing the room to the door. When I pulled it open, the color drained from my face. There they were. My mother, Margaret, at the front with her coat thrown over her shoulders, lips pressed into a tight line. Behind her stood Olivia, arms crossed smugly, and Brandon, his jaw slack in shock. Even my father, Thomas, lingered at the back, looking uneasy, as if he regretted being dragged into this. "What are you—" I started, but Margaret's eyes darted past me. Her face turned pale. At the sight of Edward sitting comfortably at my kitchen island, sipping coffee like he owned the place. Her hand shot up to her mouth. Olivia's smirk faltered. Brandon muttered something under his breath. "Dad?" Margaret croaked, stepping forward. What are you doing here?" Grandpa Edward turned his head slowly, his sharp blue eyes locking on her with an intensity that silenced the hallway. He dabbed the corner of his mouth with a napkin, then spoke evenly, his voice cutting through the tension. "I'm having breakfast," he said. "At Rachel's house." Silence. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Olivia's jaw clenched. "Her house? Since when does she have a place like this?" My blood boiled, but I didn't answer. I didn't have to, because Grandpa wasn't finished. "You all sat there last night," he said, his voice low but deadly, "and let your mother tear her down. You laughed, you mocked her. And yet here she is, with a home she earned on her own. A home filled with dignity. Can any of you say the same without leaning on my money?" Margaret's face flushed crimson. "Dad, that's not fair." "Not fair?" His hand slammed the table, rattling the dishes. "What's not fair is the way you've treated her. What's not fair is the way you've raised Olivia up on a pedestal while spitting on Rachel's name. Last night, you told her she didn't deserve to sit at the table. Well, I'll tell you this." He stood, his tall frame towering over them even from across the kitchen. "From this moment forward, her table is the only one that matters. If you want my respect, you'll find it here, not in that house you—" "Poison with your arrogance." The silence was deafening. Margaret's lips trembled. Olivia's eyes darted between us, her face twisted with disbelief. Brandon muttered, "Unbelievable." But no one dared challenge Edward. I finally spoke, my voice steady though my hands shook. "You made it clear last night that I wasn't welcome. Fine, I walked away. But don't come here now, acting surprised that I've built something on my own. You can't break me anymore. You don't get that power." The words hung heavy in the air, thick with years of unspoken pain. Thomas finally cleared his throat. "Rachel." His voice cracked. "We didn't know." "Exactly," I snapped. "You never cared to know. None of you asked where I went, how I lived, what I worked for. You wrote me off because it was easier. Well, take a good look. This is who I am. And this house? It's only the beginning." Grandpa Edward's hand settled gently on my shoulder, steadying me. "She's right," he said firmly. "And you'd better remember this moment, because the balance has shifted. Rachel's not the outcast anymore. She's the one who's risen." Margaret's breath came in shallow bursts, her eyes darting around the pristine kitchen, the expensive fixtures, the calm strength radiating from me. For the first time in my life, I saw something new in her face. Not scorn, not superiority. Fear. "Come on," Olivia hissed, tugging at her mother's arm. "We don't need to stand here and be humiliated." But Margaret didn't move. She stared at Edward, her father, as if she'd just lost a battle she hadn't even realized she was fighting. Finally, she turned on her heel, her silence louder than any insult. Olivia and Brandon followed, muttering angrily, while Thomas lingered at the door. "Rachel?" he said softly, eyes filled with something like regret. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. I just closed the door. When the latch clicked, I exhaled, my whole body trembling. Grandpa squeezed my shoulder once more and whispered, "You've won, Rachel. Don't let them take this from you." For the first time in years, I believed him. By the afternoon, word had spread through the family faster than wildfire. I hadn't posted a picture of my home, hadn't flaunted anything online, but somehow, relatives I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly started texting. "Rachel," I heard, "you bought a place? Wow, when were you planning on telling us? You must have gotten some help, right?" Every message dripped with curiosity and disbelief, as if they couldn't imagine I had earned this myself. I ignored them all. The memory of my mother's face that morning was enough fuel to keep me grounded, but not everyone was content to whisper. That evening, Olivia showed up. Alone this time. I heard the tires screech in the driveway before the bell rang. I didn't rush. I let her press it twice more before I opened the door. She stood there in her tailored coat, arms crossed, eyes sharp with fury. "Nice place," she spat, her gaze sweeping the foyer. "Who'd you trick to get this?" I bit back a laugh. "Not everyone needs to sleep their way into comfort, Olivia. Some of us work for it." Her eyes narrowed. "You think you're clever now, huh? One fancy house and you suddenly believe you're better than us? You'll always be the pathetic little sister. Don't forget that." The venom in her words was nothing new, but this time I didn't shrink. I stepped closer, letting the door fall halfway shut behind me. "You know what the difference is?" I whispered. "Last night, you had your mother defending you, laughing at your side. This morning, Grandpa walked out with me. And today, you're standing here, shaking, because, for the first time in your life, you don't hold the upper hand." Her jaw twitched. She hated that I was calm, that I wasn't breaking the way I used to. "You'll regret humiliating Mom," she hissed. "She's not gonna let this go." "Neither will I said simply, then shut the door in her face. The knock that followed was frantic, but I didn't answer. Eventually, her car peeled away. That night, Grandpa called me into the study. The fire crackled as he sat in the leather armchair, his expression firm. "They're going to come at you harder now," he warned. "Margaret thrives on control. Olivia's pride is her weapon. You need to be ready." "I'm not afraid of them anymore," I admitted. "For the first time, I feel like I can breathe, and I'm not giving that back." Edward studied me for a long moment. "Good," he said finally. "Because there's something I need to tell you." My stomach tightened. "What is it?" He leaned forward. "I've been revising my estate. I hadn't planned to reveal it yet, but after what I saw last night, I don't trust your mother or sister to respect my wishes. Rachel, the majority of it will go to you." The words hit me like thunder. "Me?" "Yes. Because you understand what struggle is. You won't squander it. They've lived in entitlement long enough. It's time someone with humility carries the family forward." I sat in stunned silence. For years I had been treated as invisible, the forgotten child. Now the ground was shifting under everyone's feet. "But Grandpa," I whispered, "they'll hate me more than ever." He gave a dry chuckle. "Then let them. Hate is powerless against integrity, and you've got that in spades." 2 days later, the storm arrived. Margaret called. I didn't answer. Then she called again and again. Finally, she left a voicemail. Her voice was sharp, almost panicked. "Rachel, we need to talk. Your grandfather is making reckless decisions. You need to think carefully about what's best for this family. Call me back immediately." I deleted it. That evening, I went grocery shopping. Heads turned in the aisles. A cousin I barely knew whispered something to her husband, glaring at me like I had stolen their future. It hit me then. This wasn't just about a house. It was about power, control. And I had unknowingly taken it away from them. When I returned, Grandpa was waiting with a quiet smile. "They'll circle like vultures," he said, "but don't give them an inch. The moment you doubt yourself, they'll pounce." I looked around at the life I had built, the home, the peace, the strength I finally felt in my bones. And for once, I wasn't scared of the storm. Because storms, when they pass, reveal who's truly standing. And this time it wouldn't be them. The confrontation came quicker than I expected. Grandpa Edward insisted we host a small Sunday brunch. His idea, not mine. He said if the family wanted answers, they could come see the truth with their own eyes. I didn't argue. Part of me wanted it to end, to strip away the whispers once and for all. By noon, Cars filled the driveway. My stomach churned, but I stood tall in the entryway. Margaret stormed in first, her heels clacking like gunshots against the hardwood floor. Olivia trailed her, chin high, with Brandon smirking as if this was some kind of spectacle. Thomas lingered, in the background, hesitant as always. "This is ridiculous," Margaret snapped, eyes sweeping the elegant living room. "Rachel, stop playing house. We all know you didn't earn this." I kept my voice steady. "Then explain why Grandpa chose to spend his mornings here instead of at your table." Edward appeared from the kitchen, calm but commanding. "Because, here, I'm treated with respect. Something you seem to have forgotten, Margaret." Olivia crossed her arms. "You're blinded, Grandpa. She's manipulating you. She always has." His jaw tightened. "No, Olivia. What blinds me is the arrogance I've tolerated for far too long." He turned to face the room. "So let's make this clear. Rachel has built a life for herself, a life of independence. And I've decided she will inherit the majority of what I leave behind." The silence was deafening. Margaret's face went sheet white. Olivia's mouth fell open. Brandon muttered a curse under his breath. "You can't do that," Margaret finally choked. "You can't cut us out for her." Edward's eyes burned. "I can, and I will. Because when I needed kindness, Rachel showed it. When she was cast out, she didn't crumble. She rose. That's who deserves to carry this family forward." I swallowed hard, my heart racing. For once, I didn't need to add a word. The power shifted right there, in my living room. Margaret trembled, gripping the back of a chair. This is betrayal." "No, Mother," I said, stepping closer, my voice firm but calm. "Betrayal was mocking me at Thanksgiving, telling me I wasn't worthy. Betrayal was laughing while I walked out. This is justice." Her eyes filled with something I'd never seen before. Not rage, not superiority, fear. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Olivia grabbed her arm. "Let's go. This isn't over." They left, slamming the door behind them. Brandon followed, grumbling. Only Thomas lingered, his hand brushing the doorframe. He looked at me, guilt written across his face. "Rachel," his voice cracked. "I should have defended you that night. I'm sorry." I studied him for a long moment. For years, he'd been silent, and maybe now he regretted it. But regret wasn't enough. Not yet. "Then prove it," I said simply. "Start by standing up when it matters." He nodded faintly before slipping out the door. When the house was quiet again, I sank into a chair, shaking. Edward placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "You didn't just win today," he murmured. "You reclaimed yourself. That's something they can never take away." For the first time in years, I felt light, free, powerful. I had walked away from their table, but I'd built my own. And now, for once, they were the ones left scrambling outside the door.